We're going to talk about cereal rye today, and I kind of want to give you a little bit of background of my experience with cereal rye and how we use it in Oklahoma. I think it might be a kind of an interesting lead up to where I see the potential for it here in North Dakota. So if we were in Oklahoma, where the stage of this rye is now would have occurred in April and May. So that's kind of the seasonal difference that we have between the two regions. The way we utilize cereal rye in Oklahoma is we graze the heck out of it with starter calves. We have a really big starter cattle industry down there. We can grow a lot of forage during the fall and winter, and we can put a lot of cheap gain on calves. So a lot of the calves that you guys will have here, maybe go south, we'll put them onto rye beginning in mid-November. We'll plant it in August. We like to have it planted by mid-September. We'll plant it at a grazing rate of 120 pounds per acre. Make sure our pH is good. Apply some nitrogen to drive it, and then we'll set stock it at about 1 calf per acre in the fall winter, which will be somewhere between 500 and 600 pounds of calf per acre. And then the spring, when it really begins to take off, we might double stock it or triple stock it. So we might have 1,600 pounds of calf per acre out there at a set continuous stocking rate. We'll graze it out in April, and then we may double crop it. And we may double crop it with another forage that you would scratch your heads because you guys probably tried to get rid of it all the time, and that's crabgrass. So we'll graze crabgrass during the summer. It's an excellent forage, but it can be a little weedy, as we know. Here in North Dakota, with the change in prevent plant rules, it really opens up the opportunity for you to have rye or some type of forage crop that you can graze, that you can hay, that you can make silage out of, that you can sell to your neighbor. Really opens up a lot of opportunities for you. And I think not only for rye, but other small grain cereal crops as well. One of the things that you need to think about and consider with planting prevent plant, number one is, how was that ground prepared for the crop that you intended to plant? What herbicides were used? What was the fertility program on that? And make sure that you understand and read whatever herbicides were on that prevent plant acres, what the restricted time limit is for plant back for whatever crop you want to plant, and then whatever grazing and haying restrictions there might be associated with that herbicide. That's going to be number one. Number two is, how do you want to use that crop? When we think about cereal rye, oftentimes it's thought of as being a cover crop, but a lot of our cover crops are just forage crops. We just call them covers. And when we think about soil health, there's several principles of soil health that rye really helps us to attain. One of the principles of soil health is to minimize ground disturbance. So one of the things that I really don't like to see is fallow ground. If you think about why do we fallow ground? One of the reasons that we fallow ground, at least in Oklahoma, is to control weeds. Another reason that we fallow ground in Oklahoma, I'm sorry to refer to Oklahoma, but that's where my experience has been. We conserve moisture. At least we think we conserve moisture. What we found out, when we put a crop on here, and if you were to walk out here, there's not a lot of, this ground is shaded. But when that ground is shaded, it keeps it cooler and it's keeping moisture in. So what we've actually found through data that we've collected, when we have crops during the summer in Oklahoma, when it might be 110 degrees, that ground is cooler and we're actually conserving moisture. And that moisture goes to that subsequent crop that fall. So that's a good thing. We're also avoiding ground disturbance. We're keeping that ground armored. We're keeping that soil in place. We're keeping it from eroding with wind and water. And also, we can add diversity to this rye. It doesn't have to be a monoculture. We can add other things to this rye. We can add cowpeas. We can add other broadleaf crops to it to increase the diversity of our mix out here. When we add diversity to a mix, we're doing a lot of things. We're increasing the soil microbial activity. We're enhancing wildlife habitat. We're enhancing insect habitat. We're doing a lot of good things. Also, we might also, if we're interested in grazing or haying, by adding some diversity to that, we're probably also increasing the quality of the forage content as well. So there's lots of good things with rye as a prevent plant cover. Now, agronomically, the question that we're getting now is, what's it going to look like if we plant it in the end of June, if we plant it in the 1st of July? I don't really have a good answer for you for that because I don't think we have that data yet. We've got data from when we typically would plant it, August, September, and what it's going to look like. But we're doing some research now at Minot where we're taking a look at what if we planted it in June? What's it going to look like? So we planted a study about 3 weeks ago to hopefully get answers to that question that you may have. Rye, if we plant it during the summer, it goes through a vernalization period during the fall and winter where it'll produce, which is required to produce a grain crop like what you see behind me now. If we plant it at this point in time, it's not going to go through that vernalization period. So it's going to be vegetative production-wise. I don't know how much biomass you're going to produce between now and September, October, but it's going to remain vegetative till it goes through a vernalization period in the fall and winter, and then it'll produce a crop in the spring. When we plant it in August or September, we're going to have spring grazing, maybe some spring hay production the following spring, which is a good thing. But one of the things that I want you to consider when we plant crops like this is, I know with coming out of the drought the last couple of years, everybody is really thinking about hay production. Now, I think there is an opportunity there for hay production. One thing about hay to keep in mind is hay is nutrient removal, grazing is nutrient cycling. So think about opportunities that you can utilize cereal rye for from a grazing standpoint. If we plant it during August, September, or maybe earlier, maybe in June or July, can we get enough production off of it that maybe we can early wean calves and background calves on rye? Those are some questions that we're going to have to collect the data to answer. Do I have any questions on cereal rye and utilization of cereal rye? One of the things that we're doing in Minot is that we will begin to look at cereal rye a little bit more. But a question that we had was, and we're getting from producers is can I plant both a cool season grass and a warm season annual grass together and extend a period of time where I would have opportunities for maybe 2 hay crops with 1 planting? So we've done that at Minot. We've planted oats. We've planted haymaker oats in combination with sorghum Sudan, hay grazer sorghum Sudan. And we're looking at seeding rates, combinations of seeding rates. So we have a monoculture of oats, we have a monoculture of hay grazer, and then we have a 50-50 mix of hay grazer and oats, a 75-25 mix of hay grazer oats, and then the flip of that, 25-75. And then in addition to that, we're putting a nitrogen response trial on top of that, where we have 5 nitrogen rates ranging from 0 all the way up to 200 pounds per acre in split applications. And we're wanting to see how those various seeding combinations work in terms of production, and then what our nitrogen response is. And just some preliminary data that I collected last Friday. We planted this study June 3rd, and I collected data on it this past Friday. We've got about 3,700 pounds on average with the oat sorghum Sudan combination at 50 pounds of nitrogen per acre rate. So that's kind of what we have going on. That's how we utilize rye in Oklahoma. That's some potential that I see for rye in North Dakota.